All right, go ahead.
Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to the May 15th, 2019 session of the Chicagoland SharePoint Users Group. I'm your co-host, Mark Vogt, and let's talk about what we're going to cover today. Well, first of all, other co-hosts are Michael Blumenthal, Ralph from Aon now, Ralph Rivas from Magenic, who wasn't able to come today, Craig Jahnke from Concurrency was not able to get, and thanks again to who really makes Chicagoland SharePoint Users Group happen as a virtual group, Deanna Evers and Edie Burrell. Thanks, guys. What we're going to cover today is all the new normal stuff, news and upcoming events, SharePoint Office 365, SharePoint framework a little bit, a little tiny smidge on the Power Platform. We were hoping to have a demo. We'd scheduled a demo, but it got canceled just early this morning. So this could end up being a fairly short session for us today. Or if we open it up to BYOP, bring your own problems, and you guys actually have some stuff that you want to talk about, we're absolutely here for you. And that's what the virtual users group, the users group in general, is all about. SharePoint news and events. If we look here, actually, Dina, can everybody see this? I just wanted to double check.
Yes, they can.
Okay, sounds good. We got cumulative updates for SharePoint 2013 through 2019 now available as of yesterday, May 14th. Here's the link to it. There's a lot of interesting stuff that's happening in SharePoint, even on-premise. There's updated SharePoint news functionality that's been out for some time, but hasn't been getting a lot of mention. There's audience targeting for SharePoint news items and pages that actually is something you really want to take a look at as far as personalizing content that you're publishing on something like a corporate intranet. You can target individual people, and when they go to look, if they meet that profile, meet that criteria, that news item will show up on any of the SharePoint pages. If they don't meet the criteria, it'll be suppressed, and they end up with a personalized experience, but not down to the individual, but down to their personas, if you will. And I rather like that. That's an easier way of achieving personalization as opposed to individual-based. There's some new, something new. SharePoint content authors now will get emails with comments, replies, and likes about their comment. So they're really starting to push SharePoint, even SharePoint on-premise, in the direction of acting like it's a social environment, letting people interact socially. Another new thing, there's organization assets. You can now identify key libraries where you store your images and other media so that they can now be accessed globally across all your other SharePoint sites. It becomes the thing you point at where you're going to store things like corporate logos, corporate images, things like that, that you can create organization-wide asset libraries and then reference them very elegantly. There's a new improvement to the hero web part. It now has something called a CTA, a call to action content leak that's been added to it. That's super cool because we liked the hero web part in the first place, and now it's even getting better. It's not you just get to see images of this new person that's being spotlighted, being turned into a hero, but if you click on these links, then you can go to some kind of call to action, and there's lots of ways that you can use that. Might see a demo even next month. More improvements. Microsoft's promised shorter, pleasant to look at URLs that are starting to pop up both in SharePoint 2019 and even in OneDrive. What do I mean by that? We all know what links look like inside SharePoint. They're hateful and long, and they're dismal to try to work with. They're making a concerted effort to try to make that super easy to work with now, and it's starting to show up as of actually late last month, early this month. We've got some new web parts that are showing up in SharePoint 2019. Watch for future demos. We've already seen the Microsoft Forms web part, the Planner web part. The whole idea is that there's a lot of Microsoft Teams functionality that you're getting to start to embed inside SharePoint and vice versa. So we've got a file previewer web part that allows you to see 270 file types and growing. There's an activity web part that you can add to a page, and it will tell you who's doing what where inside your SharePoint environment. Way cool. There's a connector web part that allows you to access 100 data sources. And if I wasn't already excited about these connectors as regards to Microsoft Flow, and that Microsoft Flow workflows can access things, now your SharePoint pages can actually connect to all of these different data sources as well. There's an improved Yammer web part. I'd have to say I'm just lukewarm about that. but there's also this cool 3D file viewer web part. The whole idea, everybody, that Microsoft and SharePoint is acknowledging that there's a lot of content out there in other locations, other platforms, and they're making it possible to stitch that directly into your SharePoint environment. So SharePoint as a portal, your intranet, becomes this aggregator of content. That was what SharePoint was defined as a portal 19 years ago. It's still back to being that integrator, that aggregator of all kinds of content. More improvement, there's integration, like I mentioned, between SharePoint team sites and MS Teams and groups. That there's Microsoft Teams functionality can now be embedded directly into SharePoint team sites. Another hateful term, that team and that word site. There's Microsoft Teams and individual channels, and we've been able to put SharePoint SharePoint pages and websites into those channels. Now there's actually going to be the ability to do SharePoint directly into team channels with no goofy workarounds. Watch for some demos on that in the near future as well. Also, the SharePoint mobile app now goes completely native with better fit and function on a per mobile platform basis. In other words, Microsoft has really thrown itself into the ring and committed to making that SharePoint mobile app the go-to tool for lots of people, especially the road warriors. Lastly, I came across, as far as news goes, I actually stumbled across a new YouTube channel that I wanted to tell you guys about called SharePoint Dev Weekly. It's a couple of guys that look like they're based out of Europe. They run like a 40-minute show. It's literally weekly. I want you to go check that out. Look up SharePoint Dev Weekly. They can go on and on and on for like 40 minutes, drive you crazy sometimes. And then they come up with some really useful stuff at the very end, show some good screenshots. You take it and you say, okay, it was worth it leaving that in the background off to the side while I'm working, because I'm always going to pick up something new. So check out SharePoint Dev Weekly. You might be pleased that you did. You guys are going to hear this a couple of times over today's session. SharePoint North America is actually next week, 21st of May to the 23rd of May in Las Vegas. See if you can make it. Lots is going to be happening. Oh, and by the way, SharePoint Cloud Saturday happened on May 4th in the Chicago suburbs, and actually was a really fun, really successful time. So if you didn't make it this time around, you actually missed out on finding out that SharePoint's actually the center of Microsoft's big universe. It's not being pushed off to the side. It's dead front and center. Everybody was trying to tie stuff into SharePoint, from PowerApps to Power BI to machine learning to AI, you name it. Everything was being tied into SharePoint, and it was really cool to see. There's a big blurb about May 21st and the keynote viewing event. Mike's got this set up where you can sit in on his session. Yeah, Mike, that's your user group, isn't it? O365 AUG?
Yep, that is my user group. And we are, for those of you who can't get to Las Vegas, we are participating in SharePoint Virtual Summit by having a viewing party here in Chicago at the Aon Center at the Microsoft office.
Cool. I'm going to leave this up for 5 more seconds. If anybody's got a QR scanner, you can go right up to the screen right now, scan that QR code, and you'll have it in your phone right then and there. In 5.
And I'll be showing that a few more times as well.
Okay, cool. All right, let's continue. I'm going to hand off to Michael for Office 365 news and events.
Thank you very much.
Michael, you have the ball.
Great. I'll just share my screen here. Okay, everyone see my slides?
Yep, it looks good.
Great, thank you. Let's get rid of this away. Okay. So as usual, I will cover Office 365 news and then upcoming events. One of the pieces of news is something I talked about last month, but there's a new twist to it. So for those of you who were with us last month, I talked about how at the tenant level, there is a switch to control whether a user sees a modern or classic user experience for lists and libraries. And this feature has been around for about 3 years now. And as of April 1st, it was initially what we were told, Microsoft was going to flip that switch to modern so that your default throughout your tenant was modern lists. You could still revert that at the site and list level, but at the tenant level, they were going to force the default to be modern. And then what I learned between last month and this month is that they're breaking that up into 2 waves. So if you hadn't seen a message about it coming in April, you probably just in the last week or two saw a message in Message Center about it coming June 3rd to June 28th. So for those of you who are in the late wave, you've got about 2 weeks to get ready for this change. So this is what the classic user experience for a library looks like, and this is what the modern user experience looks like for a library. For many of you, hopefully this is no big deal. It's not going to have users screaming. You will, the ribbon that used to be up here goes away, and things like Flow and PowerApps arrive. So that may also be an issue for some organizations who aren't prepared to deploy, support, manage Flow and PowerApps.
Hey, Mike.
And yes?
Have you had any, in your own experience, have you been in any organizations where anything is broken when they've switched over to this, from the classic to the new modern experience?
We're actually looking at this just now in the next, this week and next week, and trying to assess the impact and prepare the communications. So I don't have an answer for that yet, but I will certainly have information and possibly stories to tell by next month.
Okay.
So another deprecation that we have more time to prepare for is Access Web Services. So anyone who's published a Access database to SharePoint as an Access web application, for a while now, you've not been able to create any new ones of those. But if you have any of those in your environment, what Microsoft is saying currently is that come April 2020, so a little under a year out, those will go away. The Access web databases will be deleted. And of course, they recommend migrating to the Power Platform, which may or may not be an appropriate solution depending on what you were doing with the database. Another reminder about service deprecation, InfoPath is dead and will be deprecated or not supported after 2023. That one we've got more time horizon for, but each InfoPath form that's in your environment could be part of a business process, and so that could be a lot of any of these Access database InfoPath. If they're out there and they're used, there's probably a business process that needs to be updated, and so these can be substantial work over the next 1 to 3 years. For those of you who missed it, earlier in May, there was Microsoft Build, and earlier this month, I should say, was Microsoft Build. So there's some key news. You can
for people that aren't familiar with Build, can you just give them a 10-second overview of what Build's all about compared to, say, a SharePoint conference?
Sure. So Build is a Microsoft developer-focused event. And
it's all things Microsoft, not just SharePoint, right?
Right. It's all entire development across the Microsoft stack. And it's very developer focused. No, this is not a place to go if you're an IT pro. IT pros have Ignite, but nonetheless, there are some announcements that are made here that affect us as SharePoint and Office professionals. And so they published a PDF called the Book of News for Build, and that's a very nice, relatively concise summary of it. And some highlights from that are that Microsoft Edge is now getting Chromium as its core. So Chromium is an open source project that Google started when they made Chrome, so that the most core components of the browser are actually open source. And so both Edge and Chrome will have Chromium as their core, but then all the supporting capabilities and ecosystem integration. So for example, Chrome has the sign into your Google account. Edge will of course continue to have sign into your Microsoft account. The way that those things work, it will continue. I mean, all the ecosystem around the core is custom to the two different companies, but the rendering engine internally that they'll actually start sharing. And that's an open source project. You can actually go to GitHub and get the Chromium core yourself, although it's not a full-featured browser. It's just a browser core.
Yeah.
And hopefully that'll fix a lot of compatibility issues in terms of websites.
What's the big takeaway there, Mike? When to everybody, when you see your browser pop up and Microsoft offer, why don't you try Edge today? Hey, give it a try. It's actually a different product than it was 6 months ago. It's based on a completely different core, a whole different platform that essentially is Google open source. It's Chrome. Yeah. So why not try?
This is shipping to early development channels today. This is not shipping to general availability yet. So when you use Edge today, I believe it's still got the old one, but if you go and get one of the Edge developer releases, it does. Yeah. They started using Chromium Core. And I mean, this is Microsoft embracing open source.
Yay!
So there's another announcement from Build that is of interest to us, is something they call the Fluid Framework, and this is a set of tooling, a development framework for multi-person co-authoring on web and document content at speed and scale. So, I mean, that's sort of vague. What does that mean other than, ooh, it's faster
what does
and
that mean?
bigger? Well, here's some of the details. And I mean, this is an early announcement, so I think a lot of it's going to be wait and see, but this is a componentized document model that allows authors to deconstruct content into collaborative building blocks, using them across applications, and combine them in a new, more flexible kind of document. And then here's where AI comes into play. Intelligent agents can work alongside humans to translate text, get content, make edits, or suggest edits, perform compliance checks, and more. And this will be available to developers and, boy, I'm missing some spaces here. And this will, we'll see some of these capabilities integrate into Word, Teams, and Outlook. And they promise it by later this year. So
you had a little sneak peek of that coming up, didn't you?
To get the concept across, what they're showing here is a Word document opened by 9 different people, and not only seeing co-authoring as much as what one person is typing is showing up in everybody else's copy of Word, but language translation is being done on the fly, so that each person is seeing it in a different language. And apparently the Fluid Framework somehow enables this. Another announcement from Build is that Microsoft Search is generally available. And so in my user group, the Office 365 Adoption user group, the other user group I'm involved in, we had David Gilbert present a whole session on this. Boy, can't I spell in this deck? I apologize for that. And so his presentation we recorded, and it's up on YouTube. Let me go show you our YouTube channel. It's the Office 365 Adoption User Group Chicagoland chapter, and we've got some videos out there. There's a video from our last presentation, which was in March. In April, we had Cher Delfino from Microsoft give us this presentation on Flow and PowerApps in terms of the administrative side of it. And I've still got the recording from that I will eventually edit and get up here, put up here as well. So if you're interested in finding more about Microsoft Search, I would encourage you to go watch that on our YouTube channel right there.
Very cool.
Another improvement that Microsoft announced at Build is to My Analytics. For those of you who are not aware of what My Analytics is, it's kind of think of it as a Fitbit for your work behaviors, where this is personal productivity metrics, and it helps you do things like make sure you reserve focus time so you can actually get your work done and not be in meetings all the time. This used to be a feature that was only in the E5 Office license. Several months ago, they announced that this was in E3 as well. And then at Build, they announced that they're making some improvements to it coming this summer. And there's a short YouTube video here.
Cool. It must have been successful if they're expanding it out into E3, you know, smaller subscriptions, smaller companies. You get the impression that what everybody's fighting for are all those little micro slots of time, those micro moments during the day now, and trying to find ways to make all of them as productive as possible. Future focus time. Excuse me.
Did we lose Michael?
Mike, are you still there? We're watching
I'm still here.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah. I just don't know if there was any audio to that.
There was, but it was just music. So My Analytics is coming soon. My Analytics, this update is coming soon. But if you have an E3 or E5 subscription, I would encourage you to explore it. It does. I used it. We haven't deployed it to my current tenant. My previous tenant, we were using it, and I did find it helped me keep track of work and make time to get stuff done.
Cool.
Switching back to SharePoint. This is not from Build. This is a blog post that I came across on LinkedIn about a recent cumulative update, or alongside a recent cumulative update announcement of a security threat. And he was emphasizing the importance of getting your servers up to date because this vulnerability is out there. And so there's the link, which will be in the slides, which I've already put on SlideShare.
This is hitting even the older versions of SharePoint, isn't it? 2013 and 2016. Heck, even 20 is on there.
Yeah. And it says the Cyber Center is aware of a campaign that's currently compromising several versions of SharePoint Server in order to deploy the China Chopper web shell. That sounds rather dangerous.
What does
that's
China
enough news.
do?
That I don't know. I would ask your security experts.
Yeah,
but
I'll have to go look it up. Nice catch, Mike.
Yeah. I'll actually credit to Vlad for bringing this to more people's attention. Upcoming events. As Mark said, SharePoint North America, May 21st is the keynote. The whole conference is the 21st to 23rd. Keynote viewing party here in Chicago. Please join us. Microsoft Teams has a virtual summit June 12th and 13th. PowerApps and Flow. Next user group meeting you can find online here. That's run by Craig, who again couldn't join us today, but I encourage you to check out his user group. Ed Gallagher has a user group out of Harper College called the Technical Operations User Group at Harper. In other words, go tough. And you can find the next meeting on Meetup. That's an in-person meetup. And then the Digital Workplace Experience Conference comes June 17 to 19, and follow that link for a discount. And this is more of a business technology rather than a technology conference. So This is all about digital workplace experience, and this is actually, I would say, this is more of a business conference than a technology conference. And so this is sort of an applied use of Office 365, but there's also, of course, other solutions that people are talking about and exhibiting there. But if you're interested in using Office 365 to not just be a set of productivity tools, but create a true digital workplace for your employees, this is a good conference to go to.
Is that
and
running
again, I'll leave you.
8 to 5 every day, Mike?
This is a full day paid conference.
Okay.
Full 17, 18, 19, 3-day paid conference. And then back to SharePoint in North America if anyone needs more time to scan. And I will throw in, looking farther ahead, just so it's on people's radar, is SharePoint Fest North America is generally the first full week of December, 5 days, and brings in people from across the nation and in some cases out of the country to talk SharePoint, Office 365, and Azure.
Sounds good.
Yep.
150 speakers over 3 days. Wow.
Yep.
I wonder how many
200 sessions.
Any idea? How do you keep that many tracks going? Wow.
This is, large scale conferences like this are logistic. Nightmare, really. It's extremely challenging to put on something like this or Ignite.
You figure 150 speakers, there might be 50 to 100 people in a room. Even if you put it down at 50, you're talking what? Are there 75,000 people going to be here? This is gargantuan numbers. 70. Yeah.
Yep.
Big numbers. All right,
I should turn this back over to you, Mark. That's all the news for this month.
Sounds good. I'm going to take over the screen again. Come on. And we're going to launch something. The next one we're going to do is dive into SharePoint Framework and SPFx. Tell me if you can see that shared screen. That one.
Yep, you're good.
All right, Ralph wasn't able to make it today, but he did give me just a tiny handful of slides. I'm going to literally read them off because I haven't had a chance to even look at them yet. The big news is coming up on this next slide. Build was very cool for developers. There was a lot of stuff going on. SPFx version 1.82 was released. Lots of fixes, cleanups, all the kind of stuff that Ralph really wanted to be able to talk to you guys about today. But work pulled him away over the lunchtime, so we're probably going to end up giving him a chance, even 30 minutes in June, to talk about this. There's some other updates, some security patches, and they're starting to play up their site provisioning kit. And if you're online, it looks actually very nice. Check it out. And again, everybody's pushing SharePoint North America. No big surprise there. Let's see if there's anything else. I'm going to end that slideshow and go back to the other one. Like I said earlier today, guys, it actually was kind of a quiet event. So what we'll do is for the next 10 minutes or so, 12:30 to 12:40, we'll open up for Bring Your Own Problem. We've got a number of people here. Amy, Dan, David, Karen, V, Nicholas, Ofer, Patrick, and Tom. Any problems you guys have been facing in the last couple of weeks, even in the last couple of months, that you haven't had a chance to try to bring to the users group, now is actually the ideal time. We've literally got the minutes to spare. If anybody's got something that they want to talk about, discuss questions that they have, etc. The microphones are going to go open for the next couple of minutes. Tina, if you can.
Sure, and if you don't want to speak, feel free to go ahead and mute your line once I have unmuted you. I am going down the line. Karen, you're unmuted. I know that you had some stuff that you were going back and forth on Q&A. Ofer, hello, how are you? Patrick, looks like Tom has a question. Tom has his
Yeah,
hand
go ahead, Tom.
raised.
I get to go first?
Sure, why
Yes.
not?
All right. Hey, this is so great because I just had this issue come up, and um, and so I'm using SharePoint lists with Microsoft Access, and someone accidentally deleted something, and it went into the recycle bin. Now, trying to find something in that recycle bin is, if you know the date and time, right, then it's easy, but we don't. So I was just reading that you could create a PowerShell script to search that recycle bin. I've never used PowerShell to, connect to SharePoint, let alone search the recycle bin. I was wondering, is that something we could
Actually do that. This is a, let me reflect back what I just heard, and you'll tell me if it's accurate. You guys have Access databases, you've got a SharePoint list. Your person accidentally deleted the entire list, or an item in the list?
It's an item.
One item in the list.
Yes.
And this happened, did it happen over a month ago? There's two different recycling bins. There's one at the site level, one at the site collection level.
Right. It's still within the 30 days. Is it 30 days or 90 days? I thought it was.
It defaults to 30 days. You can set it to 90 days, I think. Well, what version of SharePoint are you dealing with, Tom?
Online cloud.
Okay. This is Michael. If I can jump in here and say,
Absolutely.
if you have audit logging turned on, and I think at this point it might be on for everyone by default, but hopefully it's on in your tenant. If you go to the audit search in the security and compliance center, and you search for all activity on the URL for, if you know what the URL for the item used to be, or if you just know the URL of the list it's in, you can do an audit log search and find out who deleted that item, and then have them go into the recycle bin, and they'll see it in their recycle bin. And that's a lot easier to look through than finding out than the admin view of the recycle bin, which is everything.
So let me ask you a question. This ID is shared, right? So you got users that might not have access to the recycle bin. Does that make sense, or am I interpreting that wrong?
It's a shared account, Tom?
What's that?
It's a shared account that they're using?
Yeah, so we got one person, let's say a dispatcher position,
Yep.
right, that different people use.
And it was that actually did the upload and later did the deletion of that item?
Yeah, I don't know who deleted it yet. So it was created and then may have been deleted accidentally or on purpose. I'm not sure at this time. But so that logging is in the admin area?
Yeah. So it's in the security and compliance center. One of the many options in there is audit log search.
Okay.
Michael, this raises a question off the top of my head. If this has happened recently, then I don't remember off the top of my head if the recycling bin is actually indexed so that it shows up in SharePoint search, and you could actually do just a search in the upper right-hand corner of your page, and actually somewhere in the results set, it ends up being a link, but the link is actually in the recycling bin instead of actually on the original page.
I don't think so. I've never seen items in the recycle bin show up in search results.
Yeah.
But there was another part to the question about using PowerShell. And PowerShell is a great tool for working with SharePoint and Office 365. You do need to have at least SharePoint admin credentials. Let me see. Depending on what you need to do, you need to have enough credentials. Your credentials need to have enough privileges. But if you're a SharePoint admin, you certainly do have enough to do some PowerShell things. And if you're a tenant admin, you have all the power you need. There's, let's see. in terms of getting familiar with PowerShell as a language and as a tool, there's some old videos I put out there that I can probably dig up the links to. I think some of the Collab 365 virtual summits in the years past, I did a talk on SharePoint and PowerShell. And basically though, and there's blog posts out there as well, but there's a PowerShell module that you download from Microsoft that you can use. Actually, you can download from GitHub that you can use to manage your Office 365 tenancy or your SharePoint tenancy. And there's a lot of power to those things. So if you're not familiar with PowerShell, it is well worth the time to get.
I did on Microsoft Virtual Academy. They had a couple of hours of. I went through it. I just never had the need to use it, so I lost it. But
hey Tom, another attendee, Naveen, also posted a link right to the lazyadmin.netherlands, where it's how to use PowerShell to restore from the recycling bin in SharePoint Online. So link if you see it in the Q&A page, the Q&A panel of the webinar.
Yeah, you might have to repost that, Mark.
Oh, okay. Let's see.
So I think they probably just sent it to you.
Even I'm looking for how to post it and make it public.
Here, I see. I can.
Oh, I see it.
Ones.
I see it.
Okay, you see it, Tom? Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll put it into the entire audience right here, so everybody has it on chat.
Oh, nice. Thanks. And thanks, Naveen. Nice and fun.
Yeah, I had found an entry, but I couldn't even get connected to the SharePoint, so I need to just. I don't think that applet was loaded, so I need to do that whole thing as well. I don't know.
Yeah.
But,
Mike, try to leverage the audit trail of who did what when as well.
yeah, I'm looking.
Nice
Is
uses
that
of an audit trail.
SharePoint Admin Center? Or
Yeah, it's part of SharePoint administration, the audit trails, that audit logging that you turn on.
yeah, okay, I'll just Google that and see where.
Right,
I'm
so
looking in there now and I don't see it, but
Let me see if I can. Let me get into my tenant and I'll show you how to get there.
Okay. Anybody else have any other questions? I see a couple other people added on, so I'll make hi. Nicholas, I didn't see you come on initially. Any other questions in our Bring Your Own Problem session today?
Hey, this is Naveen.
Naveen.
Hey, I have a question. So one of the customers was asking me, so they want like a choice field, drop-down choice field to be converted into like a people picker field, and they can search through multiple choices, select multiple options from the choice field that way. Is that can we do that, or?
Say it one more time. You usually be able to hold the control key or the shift key down and make multiple. The hard part's going to be, can your code that captures that actually know how to parse that out as more than one, as an array of values?
Right. Yeah, so just like people picker, instead of searching through Active Directory, we want to search through like all the drop-down choices, like maybe like 50, 60 choices, and they want to type in like last three letters of whatever the choice was, and they want that to populate automatically. Am I explaining right?
Yeah, they want to type ahead or
right,
at least
exactly. Yeah.
3 characters and
Yep.
and
Yeah,
have
that doesn't sound like something that's available out of the box. I mean, you can have a lookup list, but I don't think it does type ahead.
Right. Yeah.
There might be some third-party add-ons you can get.
Okay.
Sometimes, Naveen, can you post that as a question on the Q&A? And what
Sure.
we like to do, what we really enjoy doing, is capturing these, and even if there requires a little bit of research, hey, we tackle it outside of the session, hopefully sooner than the next month, which is you probably need the answer quicker than that. But If we don't know the answer right here, right now, we don't mind spending time trying to help you find the answer.
Okay.
So
Or
I
anybody
can
else
share
that
my
wants to participate.
screen now. Mark can show how to get to the audit search. If you want to make me
Yeah. Somebody, I'm
again.
looking at.
There you go.
Thank you. Okay, so let me get this out of the way.
So
Okay,
I see your questions and I'm answering them now.
So this is my Office 365 tenant, the admin portal, admin.microsoft.com, and under all admin centers, security and compliance. Oops. Audit log search. And then you can put a URL in here.
Tom, are you trying this even as we speak? Even
I'm trying to follow along here. How'd you get into that? I went to all admin centers and then SharePoint, right?
No, not SharePoint.
Oh,
It's the Security and Compliance Center.
I might not have permissions on that one because I'm in this modern view. So is that what?
Yep. So let me go back to. Actually, okay. So start from home.
Yeah, Mike, you might have more admin privileges in your O365 subscription than Tom does.
Okay. So under admin centers, all
Got
admin
that.
centers.
Got it.
Okay. Do you see security and compliance?
Yeah, I don't have that. So I'm thinking I need to.
You may need to ask your global tenant admin then, or
Michael, is there another way you might be able to do it from the SharePoint admin center? Might there be?
Don't think so.
Okay.
Check.
While you guys are working, Songmay's asking some more questions about
Nope.
search web parts too, and that's reminded me there was something I did want to talk about, which was Microsoft Search integrating with online and offline, but we'll save that for June.
So this is what the audit log search looks like. You put the URL in there. You can change the date range you're searching for, and a whole variety of different kinds of activities you can filter on.
So the URL would be for that particular list or site?
Yeah. I would do it for the particular list.
Okay. Yep. All right.
It looks like it's even part of a file name though, that it'll take that snippet and go searching for that section. One thing that you have to double check though, even to begin with, Tom, is to see if the audit logging's been enabled and if it contains sufficient information, if it goes back far enough in time. Like, I don't think
for 30 days it will. So it's the default is it's rolling. I think it's rolling 90 days, and then there is a pilot program they're doing. I don't know if it's gone past that yet or not. To do a 1-year retention on the logs, but right now it's I believe 90 days.
Remind me, is audit logging enabled by default or disabled by default? And you have to turn that one on.
It used to be you have to turn it on. Currently, I'm not sure. I think it might be on by default.
Okay. So you got two options to check out there, Tom. You can try querying the recycling bin from inside PowerShell if you've got sufficient privileges to run PowerShell, a PowerShell session against your SharePoint Online environment. You've got the ability to query the audit log or have someone give you the you can step him through the process, or her if you've got a person with admin capabilities, but at least you might be able to find it. You're just trying to find one lost file right now, right? Is that accurate?
One lost row.
One lost row?
Yeah, just a row in the list that was deleted. So, but this is good. Thank you very much for sharing that.
It's stuff to try. I'm looking at in the next couple of minutes. I'm just looking at some other questions that popped up. Any date set for the classic design to actually go away? Michael, any ideas on that?
Yeah, no. The classic will be supported for they have not declared any end date, but they obviously do want to encourage people to go to modern, and so eventually there's got to be some sunsetting of that code, but they have not provided a date at this point, and I think we may still have a couple of years, but it's going to be a matter of them looking at the usage metrics and making sure that they can provide a modern alternatives, and then they will give some amount of warning. But no, they've not announced any end date for Classic. Just they want the 10 level default to be modern, and they're insisting on it.
Good to know. Yeah, and the key thing here, everybody, is this. Microsoft is deliberately shifting over to this new modern experience, not because it wanted to push a couple of pixels around, which is what it looks like, but because the underlying pages structure, the architecture has changed to allow you to start adding custom web parts built on the SharePoint framework to enhance this user experience. And Microsoft went out of its way to say even part of this modern user experience is, in fact, SP framework enhancements added onto the page. So they can't do that if everybody's still glued onto the classic framework where they can't embed and inject those kinds of enhancements. Everybody's got to make the shift over to this new interface and the structure and the architecture that's lying underneath it, so that then Microsoft can begin actually evolving the way these pages work, the way they look for everybody going forward, and it becomes seamless. It becomes easy. That is the way of the future. It's the reason why Microsoft's pushing this so hard, everybody. I'm looking around at some other questions. Naveen, we're going to take a look at your one outside of the users group session. Anybody else got any? I think we pretty much handled any other questions, any other problems that anybody had. I'm okay with actually, wrapping up 10 minutes ahead of time. Let's continue with the very last slide of the day. And that's just to talk about the next session. The June session, we're going to aim for June 12th. The only thing that everybody needs to know, the only thing that everybody needs to know is that we're going to be shifting which company is actually going to be providing the webinar experience. The last 3 years, MTech has been very courteously supporting this particular endeavor, hosting every single one of these webinars. We thank MTech very much for that investment. You have our heartfelt thanks. Going forward, it's going to be picked up by Avanade or personally by me. You're going to each get emails that are simply going to show emails from Mark this time around as we make this handoff and take over a different technology. We'll be covering all the regular stuff. It might be another shorter session just because it's June and things tend to get quiet in June, but SP North America will have just happened, so there might be lots to talk about as well. Really exciting stuff, and you might want to stay tuned to watch for that. That's all I've got. Let's see, any other questions? I see emails from everybody. I think that's about it. Anything else from you, Mike? Anything else, Dina or Edie?
No, I just want to thank everybody for coming, and we will be posting the recording and this onto YouTube later on today, and everybody will get an email tomorrow for sure. All
right, sounds fantastic. Thanks, everybody. Thank Dan, Eric, Karen, Naveen, Nicholas, Patrick, Song May, Lee, and Tom. It was a good session today. I appreciate it. Talk to you later.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. On the 21st. Thank you.
Bye, guys.